Hi Internet. Today we are going to be turning this little 4-ounce jar into a free micro Mossarium that anyone can make. When you see people online that have experience with making terrariums and the like, it's pretty easy to get intimidated and be like, oh, I could never do that. Well, the fact is, they've been doing it for years and you can too. So, you don't really need a false bottom, but they make your life easier. So we're going to add in some gravel. Try to get it relatively straight. And I don't have Crocs, so I have to wear fingerless gloves to go into sport mode. One of the things that I like about certain glass jars, although small glass jars can be difficult to work with, is that they often come on the underside of the lid, or they often come with, they don't just come. You have little inserts that you can take out and make your barrier with. Doesn't have to be a perfect fit. As you can see there, it is not. The purpose of the false bottom allows excess water to drain. Additionally, it can be colonized by microbacteria. But once again, you don't 100% need them. It's just like if you're at the stage where you can go without them, you don't need someone to tell you. Next, I'm going to be adding some substrate. And part of doing something 100% for free out of trash is the difficulty in making it aesthetic without spending any money. That jar was trash. It was obviously sterilized. That gravel is from a dog park, so I had to clean that. Even though there's no animals going in here, aside from some microfauna, probably saturated in dog urine. There was also pollen on it, so I wanted to get that off. The reason why I am using the soil that I am currently going to use is that I took it from a planted naturalistic tank, so I know there's a couple of springtails in there. In the future, I may have to add more. Springtails are very helpful because they eat mold. So, I have some other soil too, but we're going to start with this. And once again, this would be a lot easier if I could use tools, but tools cost money, so we will not be doing that. Come on. The hardest part of doing this is actually not knocking over the camera and working at this odd angle. Let me get this stick in there. Gonna be using this stick, so hopefully. And if I know anything about my luck, whatever springtails were in this jar or in that soil were also in the part that fell out. So there's some soil. We're gonna do it flat at first. And then I also have some additional soil that's a mixture of potting soil and soil from outside. You tend to want to avoid using stuff from outside without sterilizing it, unless, of course, you are not putting animals in the jar. For me, I happen to know that this soil is devoid of pesticides, but it wasn't fully sterilized, so any kind of microbacteria or other microorganisms can come in. There's good soil mixtures that you can make, a myriad of different ones for terrariums, but we're trying to do this for free. The substrate that I got out of the tank has a lot of fibers, it's aerated. I know for a fact that it can retain moisture without compacting down, which is the main reason it's on the bottom. And then this layer with like a little bit of leaf litter and stuff like that will help feed the microfauna. I need to get a little bit more soil to cover this all up because what we're going to be doing is not a very naturalistic looking design. I do like to make naturalistic designs, but I'm going to try and go for just a pure moss scape. I have returned with more soil. Okay, that looks better. Potentially too much. Gonna scape it up. So by pushing stuff towards the back, it will help facilitate the illusion of depth. So as you can see from the side, it's actually a lot higher in the back. But it doesn't really look like it's just a 4-ounce jar. I'm going to add a little bit of moisture to help it retain its shape. Now, one of the biggest killers of micro terrariums and stuff like that is overwatering. I'm not 100% certain how I want to do this scape. I have some general ideas. I'll be using probably just these 3 rocks. And like I said, we're not going for something completely naturalistic. The rationale behind that is I kind of want to half-ass my way through some Iwagumi-esque stuff. I gotta get better angle for filming and stuff, but what the fuck ever. So first we're gonna put some rocks in. And I don't really know how easy this is gonna be without... So pushing them in to hopefully hold up the soil a little bit. Trying to use the flat edge. And uno más. Because this has a lid on it, we don't want to go completely up to the top because light is going to have some difficulty getting there. Well, I mean, you know what I mean by lid, like a non-clear one. All right, that looks okay. So I collected some moss from outside. It's very important when you're doing that to not over-harvest, make sure you can get it from that area, no herbicides, pesticides, all that good shit. I live in the desert, so the only moss that ever grows here is by sprinklers, and it's pretty much exclusively thread moss. Sometimes there's some cushion moss. So yeah. Gonna try, and I cleaned this up a bit. It's not perfect. That's okay. I'm not expecting this to be perfect. So let's put you there. I got some big chunks too. I just want to kind of get some of this smaller stuff in first. Like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. It will grow. Moss doesn't grow too quickly though. So something that I've experienced with doing the moss things is it can be a little bit difficult, much like with aquariums. The small terrariums have much bigger effects from very small things that we do. The ramifications and consequences of doing something not so hot is pretty big. So we want to be very careful with it. I guess people like to see close-ups of moss. Got a big chunk that I'm going to be ripping some sections off. And I probably should have grabbed a Q-tip to do this. Pushing it down to help it wick up moisture from the soil. But if I were to go get a Q-tip, I would have to stop filming. And why the fuck do I care? No one's going to watch this shit. I am doing this for me. That's a good area. So once again, you know, if you want to go for something naturalistic, you probably want to add some other ground cover plants, and something that's small, you can't really do that, but you could add other species of moss. Not interested in that. Trying to go for a monoculture looking thing. Who knows how well that will work out for me. So you don't want to push too hard because you can like crush it, but at the same time, if you don't push hard at all, like if you push too softly, it won't really make contact. So can I slide you up there? That looks good. So with respect to some of the difficulties with a smaller container with moss, I've had some, like, you know, I have one going on right now that's literally less than 2 weeks old, and the moss has already grown so much that I need to trim it. fairly soon. It's growing vertically, not out, so it's not like overcrowding, but yeah. And conversely, I've had other ones that were even larger that the moss pretty much died out, and I was certain that it was dead. I was ready to scrap the terrarium. Thought I saw some algae growth, so I was like, whatever. And then that algae growth turned out to be the moss coming back. So we'll see how this works. A little bit of gaps here and there for the moss to show me where it wants to grow. When you're using something small like this with just moss, you don't want to put in any isopods because isopods will eat moss. Okay. That's looking all right thus far. Tuck you down. I got any more moss? I do have some more moss, but I think I'm going to use it for something else. And the last thing, I'm going to go ahead and plant this little stick in right there. Why the fuck not? So I think that, gotta push you down. So I think that looks decent. Let me back it up a little bit. I think that looks decent. Not perfect, but you know, we can't all be Serpa. And to reiterate, I did this for free in what, 7 minutes? I mean, I guess I spent some time cleaning it up, but whatever. Yeah, you can definitely do it differently. I hope you do. And make sure to spread the hobby. You know, part of the reason why I'm doing this, because once again, since nobody fucking reads this, is my fiance really liked moss, and then she died. So, you know, every day is misery, every breath is hell. But the moss is still there. So I don't think I really need any more water because there's water on the soil from cleaning the moss, a little bit of spritz to help it keep its shape. And it's kind of cool that it's stratified like that. I don't know how well you can see the soil. And there was some moisture on the rocks already. Like I said, the biggest killer would be overwatering. Anytime that you use wood in something like this, there is a good chance of getting mold. I can always add more water later. Additionally, I'm going to want to check to see if springtails actually made it in. I know I have a couple, but we'll see how they do. So I think I'm just going to do one little spritz to make sure get the moss a little bit wet. But you can see how little's actually coming out from the water bottle. Make sure you use dechlorinated water, all that jazz. Anyways, going to seal this up. I think I have a good spot for it. And if you're watching this video, that means in a couple of months it was still alive.